We're now going to turn our attention to the ability to edit our models. This means going from object mode to edit mode. Edit mode is where we have the ability to manipulate a 3D object within 3D space, such as manipulating the location, rotation and scale. But now I want to actually edit the shape of my object. The first step here is for me going to be to delete Suzanne and replace Suzanne or Bob with a simpler object to work with. So I'm going to replace him with the default cube. Now I'm going to go into edit mode for my cube object. I can do this by coming up to where it says object mode in the header of the 3D viewport and left clicking. This brings up a menu with numerous options. We're not going to cover all of these options. The only ones we need to be worried about right now are object mode, which is what we've been working on up to this point, and edit mode. Left click on edit mode and the highlight of your cube will change significantly. Right now, all of the geometry of our cube has been selected. If we press the G key on our keyboard, we will be able to move our geometry around our scene. We can lock it to the X, Y and Z axes, as well as the X, Y and Z planes. However, I want to be able to select individual parts of my model. That's the point of being in edit mode. I can select one of three kinds of geometry: vertices, edges or faces. To start off with, I'm going to left click away from my model to deselect everything. A vertex is a singular point on your model. It has a location coordinate system and not much else. For our cube, our vertices are going to be the corners on the top and bottom of our object. If we left click on one of these corners, we can select it. This allows us to grab our vertex and begin adjusting the shape of our model. Just as we could with the whole object, we can lock this to the X, Y and Z axes or planes if we want to. We can select multiple pieces of geometry, so multiple vertices, by holding down the Shift key. So if we hold down Shift and left click on this vertex, we now have two vertices selected which we can grab and reposition. So in this example, I might hit the G key to grab, then hit the Z key to scale on the Z axis or move on the Z axis, move it down to about here and left click. And now we've got a custom shape from our original cube. Of course, vertices aren't the only form of geometry on our model. We also have edges. If we come up here, we have three buttons, one for vertex select, one for edge select, and one for the third type of geometry, which is face select. The second one is edge select mode, so I'm going to click to select edges. Now we can select any of the edges on our model. An edge is defined as the line that connects two vertices together. So every single edge on our model is constructed of two vertices on either side. An edge cannot exist with less than two vertices, and it cannot exist with more than two vertices. So we now have the ability to select any of our edges, and let's now edit the object a little bit more. So for this edge at the bottom, I've selected it with the left mouse button so it's highlighted white. I'm going to hit the G key and this time move it along the Y axis. So I'll move it to about here. And now we've created a more customized shape that is starting to not look like the original cube at all. Our final method of selection is for face select. Here I can left click and now I can select any of the faces on my object. A face is effectively a closed loop of edges and vertices. If the loop is not closed, then the face cannot be formed. In our example, we could take the bottom face and hit the G key to grab maybe lock it to the z-axis, and push it down to further customize our model. When it comes to manipulating the different types of geometry, we are restricted in terms of our ability to manipulate their transforms. The vertice or vertex is the most limited in terms of what we can do in terms of transforms. We can manipulate the location of a vertex, but because it is a single point, we cannot rotate a vertex, nor can we scale it. An edge, however, allows us to do all of these things to an extent. We can move it with the G key. We can also rotate it. And we can scale. Now, for scaling, we can only scale the distance between the 2 points that make up the edge. So when I press the S key, it doesn't matter if I limit it to a specific axis, it's not going to go in any other direction other than where the two vertices are positioned and the distance between them. Finally, we have faces, which have the greatest scope for manipulation when it comes to transforms. We can grab to change the position of our faces, we can rotate our faces, and we can even scale our individual faces. And we can do so, when it comes to the scaling in particular, on our 3 axes. So X, Y, and even on the Z axis. These are the 3 types of geometry that we can select and manipulate with regards to mesh objects such as our cube.